He has returned to the H blocks and was eventually released in the 1990s. To this very day, he remains on the front line of this struggle. Will you please give a warm South Armagh welcome to Jerry Kelly?
And it's on more there's a van showing you a couple of reader or not any a fear boss or sensation of her go more as a canter show. It's a great honour to be asked here to say a few words about the volunteers who died for Ireland and especially in the South Armagh area. As you know, South Armagh is not just honoured and well known by the people who live in it and surround it, but it is honoured and respected throughout the world, in Ireland and abroad. A place where people are very proud, are very confident, a place where people are committed, where resistance is in the blood, a place where people are prepared to struggle for what they believe is right. And it's not new. It goes back hundreds of years, right back way before the famine, when people in this area and in North Louth and in Monaghan had to fight then as they did in this campaign. But the people that were here to remember, the volunteers who died, epitomise that spirit of South Armagh. Not only did they give their lives up during life, but they paid the ultimate sacrifice for us so that we could be free. And I would like to pay tribute to those volunteers and indeed the leadership of the IRA who fought in every aspect of the struggle, whether that was in Armagh, whether it was sending people, which they did to Britain and further afield in Europe. And of course they were at the centre of everything, whether that was on the battlefield or off it. They showed massive courage. And if courage was enough, if it was only courage we needed, then South Armagh would show that Ireland should have been long since free. But courage is not enough, and the people in South Armagh, like Michael McBride, who's speaking, and he died in 1973, so just before he died, said, at some stage, and he said this as an IRA volunteer, at some stage the fighting will have to stop and the talking will have to begin, and the talking will be harder than the fighting. Now that's a vision as early as that, because the war went on much longer than then. Even the enemy soldiers and generals respected the volunteers and people of South Armagh. They feared them in combat, weren't afraid to say that in books and in interviews they gave. And Armagh was looked upon as the leading guerrilla force throughout the world, as with the rest of the IRA. And without the IRA, without Republicans, we wouldn't have had the movement that we've had. Without the cessation and the initiative of that cessation, we wouldn't have had a peace process, we wouldn't have had negotiations. And yet in the middle of all of this, we need to remember that these were ordinary men and women. They could have chosen a different path, they could have left it to others, could have had their careers, families, travelled, but they found themselves in very extraordinary circumstances. In a way, by accident of birth, they were in that generation. And they took up that challenge in those circumstances, and they led from the front. They may not have known that they were leaders, but it's very, very clear now, looking back, that they were the leaders. They're the people who led us to this point. If I could be a bit personal, this post-1983 was one of the other things, of course, South Armagh was very crucial in, was the escape from Long House. My first memory was at the great honour to go on active service in South Armagh as a volunteer down here after that. And my first memory was actually, and I was saying the comment earlier on, was in Coolderry. And I was told when I was there, it's actually a bit funny looking back, because I was in Brian Heaney's house. Does any of you remember Brian Heaney? He's dead now. And they picked me up, and I had a hold over one change of clothes, and I threw it in the back of the car, and they get up and they put me in a van, and they give me an automatic shotgun, and they said follow him. So I can't tell you who I followed, but he led me well. And as part of that, we ended up in Coolderry, and I remember the volunteers and we were waiting there, were telling me that that's where Seamus Harvey lost his life. And it's one of those memories, you have these memories, one of those memories that always stays with me, and anybody who's been in Kildare, it is a very haunting place, a very lonely place. And I'm intensely proud to be able to say that I was part of Armagh, of the South Armagh Brigade. And, you know, we have 24 volunteers here, and it's very, very difficult. If you're making a speech like this, you're always worried that if you mention one person that, you know, you leave others out. And the only reason I mentioned Brendan Mulley and the two Brendans is because I did know them personally. They were around at that stage. And Brendan Mulley was the last person. He's always stayed in my mind, very highly, and he represented many other volunteers, but a highly intelligent volunteer, but very, very down to earth. And he was actually the person who drove me out when I was asked to go to Europe and do a bit of other work. He was the guy who drove me out to the coachman's out the main road there. And South Armagh produced and still produces many, many people of the ilk of the people that are on this great monument. I'd like to say at this moment, because I've seen this monument getting built, I would like to congratulate the commemoration committee, because it's absolutely beautiful, a great tribute to those who have died for Ireland. But there's many such people, and the community brings up people like that. So it's not just the volunteers, it is the people who surrounded them, the people who checked the fields day and night to make sure it was safe for volunteers to go into them, the scouts, the people who opened their houses, the people who held weapons, the people who were much more than just the volunteers who were involved in this whole struggle. And South Armagh, of course, was always a place of innovation and radicalism. I was looked at the DVD that the commemoration committee have done about here, and you can see throughout that, right from the early 70s, the innovations that came out of South Armagh during the period of conflict. And the intelligence that was there, the fact that they studied the enemy and knew what they were doing, and also, most importantly, that they learned from mistakes as time went on. And of course, you cannot go through that type of conflict. You cannot fight for freedom without losing people, and as always, you lose some of your best people in armed conflict. And I don't know, and I say this all the time, you know, at commemorations, I don't know what they would have thought. I don't know what they would have said if they were standing here in my place at this time. But I can tell you what I do know. I do know that those who survived, those who took up the mantle, that's their duty, to continue that struggle, to lead as best they can. And if, you know, in terms of, if you go right back to Bobby Sands, and when he stood in election as an IRA volunteer, that was one of the first major initiatives that were ever taken. And I also know that we must struggle not as if it was 1916 or 1930 or 1980 even, or 2000. We have to struggle in the here and now. We have to use the tools of the here and now to move us forward. We have to struggle as it is in 2012. And I came across a quote from James Conley, which I think is a lesson. And he was actually speaking at the graveside of Theobald Wolfe Tone, the father of modern republicanism. And he said, "We who hold his principles," speaking of Wolfe Tone, "we who hold his principles believe that any movement which would successfully grapple with the problem of national freedom must draw its inspiration not from the moulding records of the past, but from the glowing hopes of the living present, the vast possibilities of the mighty future." So when we do take initiatives, we argue it out, thrash it out, we come to decisions. Sometimes it's easy to make, sometimes you're 99% sure, sometimes it's 70%, sometimes it's 60%. But you argue it out and you make a decision, and then people move on united, and that has been the great strength of the Republican movement. And political strength is crucial to our struggle, and indeed to any struggle. And we've come a long way from Raymond McCreesh, who was in a hunger strike, with Bobby Sands and the 8 other comrades. You know, we are truly an all-Ireland party. We have 14 TDs, 29 MLAs, we have MEP, with hundreds of councillors, with a very strong political party, driving forward our political struggle north and south. And we've come through many phases to get to where we are here. And Sinn Féin is different. It's different from other political parties. It is a party born in struggle. It is a party that comes from the community and is of the community and fights for the community, no matter where that may be in Ireland. And that is the bedrock of our struggle, that we come from the people. And of course, we are fighting for a new Ireland, which is for Protestant, Catholic in the centre, and that also means reaching out and engaging, means letting others know that there's a place for them, that we won't do to others what was done for us for generations, that it is a place where everyone is welcome. And part of that is reconciliation. Now, there's no miracle in a united Ireland. Everything doesn't change just because we get a united Ireland. What we have to do, and people know this, is we have to prepare for it. And there's a generation, and we're into a second generation, who have been working day and night for that. And we deserve the best society that we can get for the people of Ireland. And I suppose it's in that context that we're moving ahead and carrying out the maybe smaller initiatives that we're going to do next week. And I know, standing here, that it's a very deep and emotional issue, and especially for those who have lost loved ones to the British state. But the British and the Unionists also need to know that they have initiatives to take. If it's about equality, if it's about respect, if it's about reconciliation, then truth is the core to all of that. Victims and survivors also deserve equality. And the British government needs to acknowledge its role in the conflict. And we will continue that long struggle for truth that we've already begun. I see a lot of young people around here. It's very heartwarming, actually, for the 24 young people to come up and lay the flowers. And I also see a lot of women. And I want to speak to you directly. And I want to use someone from another struggle, Nelson Mandela's words. And he said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. As we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others." Now we have a new generation, there are new challenges, so I would argue from here, from this podium, for young people and others, and especially women, to join the struggle, to come forward and lead this new generation to the united Ireland that these volunteers lived and died for.